I have a specimen of a giant stick insect. It's called Phobaticus serapites. This is a female, and it's freshly dead. It's still got some eggs inside, which I'm going to remove. But today I'm going to prepare it to use as a dried specimen. It's got green in color and a white stripe down the back, irregular white stripe. And I'm going to try and preserve this and demonstrate how to get the best results for preserving one of these. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up the abdomen and remove the eggs and the guts. Now you notice it's missing a couple of legs, and these have fallen off. The legs break off on these very easily. And I've kept the legs, so when I'm finished I can put the legs back on and it can be a complete specimen. I've got some tiny little scissors that I'm going to use to make the incision in this. I'm going to start down near the last segment of the abdomen and just cut through gently along the bottom in a straight line. This is the grossest bit, for sure. And I'm going to go all the way up the abdomen so I can get a good access. Okay. Then I have some tweezers. I like these bent tip tweezers. They work well. And I'm going to grasp the viscera and just pull it out. These are intestines. I'm not seeing any eggs. Oh, there's an egg. I have experimented in the past, and these eggs that are fully formed are viable. They will hatch. There's probably some undeveloped eggs here, that may not have their shells fully dried out yet, that might not hatch. But for something that's unusual and valuable, like that one's pretty pale, I don't think that one will hatch. It's worth saving the eggs. Oh yeah, there's quite a few in here. So I'll tease those out later. Now, the exoskeleton on this is pretty delicate, so I want to be gentle so as not to damage the outside of it to make a nice specimen out of it. There's quite a bit of fat in there. A lot of fatty tissue. Alright. Now, I also need to remove as much of the guts as I can from the thorax, and I'm going to need to reach up into the thorax to do that. Most insects you can get up into the thorax pretty well, but because this one is so long, I'm going to make another opening here in the thorax so that I can get all the material out. You definitely get a much better color if you can remove as much of the gut as possible so that it dries out quickly. So I'm going to make a little cut right here on the prothorax and then get my scissors in there so I can get as much of that out as I can. You can see how this collapses. It's really quite thin and flexible. I've got some smaller tweezers here I can get in there with. Yeah, see I'm pulling out the gut here. There we go. These insects that are green, katydids, grasshoppers, stick insects, if you just let them dry, they lose their color. They just turn brown. And so my strategy in this is to try and get it to look as natural as possible. Also, because this exoskeleton is so thin, when they dry out it'll shrivel up, and it just doesn't look the same as when it was alive. And I'm going to demonstrate a technique for stuffing it. Basically, we're going to do taxidermy on this to try and preserve the contours of the body. Okay, so I'll get most of the guts out. So I'm going to pour the acetone inside the body of the insect. This is like, industrial strength acetone. Acetone is very toxic and flammable. So we want to be very careful when we're handling this. Minimize contact with your skin and indoor exposure to fumes. So I'm doing this indoors, but I'm going to put this outside when I get the acetone in. I'm going to use the forceps to hold the body cavity open so that when I pour the acetone in, it will go inside the insect's body. There we go. I want it to fill up the body cavity. And then I want enough in the tray. This is some kind of a polymer tray that works well for this. You can also use metal. And I want to the body submerged in the acetone there, like that. The acetone seems to stiffen it up too. It stiffens up the exoskeleton when it's really soft like this. I can feel it stiffening up already. I want to get this kind of straight so that when I'm ready to dry it out, it comes out nice and straight. It'd be nice if the legs would be in the acetone too, but I don't have a container that's quite big enough for this long of an insect, so I just want to get the abdomen kind of straight here. There we go. And then I'm going to fold the legs down, the antennas, so they don't get crushed. I don't want them to get damaged. There we go. And this has a lid that I'm going to put on it. Acetone is also really volatile, so it'll just evaporate out pretty quickly. Sometimes I use like a aluminum pie tin and then just put some foil over it. So I'm going to set this outside for a couple of hours and let that acetone soak into the specimen, and then I will move on to the next step. Now I'm a couple of houses down the street from me, and there's this tuft of decorative grass, and it has these wonderful little cylindrical pieces of grass which work really well as supports for long skinny specimens. Oh, there's a good one. I'm going to get a couple of them here as long as I'm at it. Some of these pieces are kind of thin and flat, and the others are more cylindrical like this, and it's the cylindrical ones that we want for what we're doing here today. I'm going to use 3 pieces of this grass. I'm going to trim the sharp ends off. I use this mostly for dragonflies and tropical damselflies. Their abdomens are very fragile, and if you just have one piece of grass like this inserted into the abdomen of the dragonfly or damselfly, it makes it very sturdy and it won't break off, which is always a risk with dried specimens in collections. So I'm going to use all 3 of these together because this is a fairly large insect, and I'm not going to cut the length of it quite yet because I don't have the specimen ready. I'm going to use some white thread to bind these together. I'm going to make a loop and then attach that to one end here of the 3. Tie a knot in that. And I'm just going to wind this thread along the length of this grass to hold it together. Where's that? Take the end piece off. There it is. There we go. And I'm going to wind this thread along the length of this grass to make a little backbone for to support the abdomen of this insect. Yeah, this should work really well. Now, to secure this thread, I'm going to have a loop out like this. I wrap this around a couple of times, and then I'm going to use this loop to tie a knot there to hold that thread in place. I'll put another another knot in it. And then I will also put some knots along the length of this so that when I cut it, it'll stay the exact length I need it to be. So I took this and measured it to the length of the specimen that's still soaking in acetone, and I'm going to cut it off just a little bit longer in case I need a little bit more. And then I tied the ends with thread so that it doesn't come apart. So I'll trim off the extra threads. These scissors aren't as sharp as I'd like them to be. There we go. So now this is ready. Now when it comes time to actually insert this into the insect, I'm going to use, I have some spun polyester here. You don't want to use cotton because cotton is organic and it'll decompose. This is spun polyester. This is the material that you would find, in a bed pillow, an average pillow, or throw pillow or something. It's very malleable. You can shape it however you want. In this case, I'm going to, roll it up and make it into the shape that'll hold the body of the insect into a natural shape. The exoskeleton, again, is very thin on these stick insects, so when they dry out, they'll tend to shrivel up. But if you stuff the inside with some of this polyester, it will hold the insect's body in a more natural shape when it dries. I also use this for grasshoppers. Large grasshoppers' abdomens shrivel up when they die, so I do basically the same procedure. I'll open them up and gut them, stuff them with polyester, and then when they dry, they hold their shape much better. The stick insect now has soaked in acetone for about an hour, and it's bleached out the green a little bit, but that's normal. It's still better than if you don't acetone soak it at all. It just ends up being very brown. So now I'm going to apply the internal support structure and the spun polyester. So I've got my 3 blades of cylindrical grass tied together in a stick, and I have it measured to the correct length. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is just insert the front end. This part in the thorax is quite a bit narrower than it is back here in the abdomen. So I'm just going to insert this into the thorax area and then pack some spun polyester around that. And in the abdomen, I want the stuffing to be underneath the stick so that it's up against the back of the abdomen. So we're going to try this first. I'm going to insert the stick through the abdominal opening right up into, it's going up to there, right up into the head. I may have to trim this a little on the end here to make it work properly. So now I've got some polyester. I'm going to roll it into a appropriately diameter strip here. Yeah, for that. And I'm going to use my fine tweezers, which serve me well. And now remember, I have an incision here on the underside of the thorax. I can push the polyester fibers in. Once I get it started, it should go in pretty easily. There we go. Yeah. And this will supply the exoskeleton with structure, so when it dries out, it doesn't get all shrivelly. I'm going to flip it over and take the other end of this and put it into the middle part of the thorax. And there's the opening. Yes. Yeah, that's working out quite well. Okay. And then get the edges fold it up around there. Very good. Okay, and see, that makes this all very rigid, which is good. Now, the abdomen. I've already rolled up a piece. I think it's the appropriate diameter and size. I'm going to tuck this up underneath the stick, if I can. I'll start with the narrow end and my tweezers gripping the end of it, and then slide it up underneath. Oh yeah, that's working. And slide it up underneath the a stick, so that it fills that part of the thorax well. And then I'm going to place it underneath the stick here in the abdomen and pull up the edges of the abdomen around the polyester. I want this stick to be on top. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm going to flip it over and do the same on the back side. Insert this into the very end of the abdomen and tuck the polyester into the back part here. There. And then I'm going to insert this grass bit into the very end. There. Now you can see there's quite a bit of exposed stuffing on the bottom, and I want to close this abdomen around it somewhat, so I'm freeing up the loose ends of the abdominal exoskeleton on the bottom. And then I've got a neat little trick to hold that together until it dries properly. And now that I have the stuffing all in place and the edges of the abdomen lifted up, they were curled over a little bit after being soaked in acetone, I need to close this up. And the way I do it is I use 00 insect pins, which are ultra fine, very, very, very thin insect pins. And so I'll take a few of those out, pull the edges of the abdomen together, and then insert a pin through the edge of one side and into the edge of the other side, and then the pin sort of holds those two pieces together. Now, after the specimen has dried out, it's very easy to just pull those pins out. So they kind of act like staples, just to hold, oops, I got the grass. Staples just to hold the sides together until it's dry. It doesn't have to be completely sewn shut. On a larger insect, I might actually get a needle, a fine needle, and some thread, and actually stitch it up. But in a situation like this, just pinning it together like this is more than enough. You can see that once I pull it together like that. There, see, it holds it in place quite well. So I'll just go on down the line here and do a few more. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it over and see how this looks. I want it to be nice and straight. There's a little bit of a twist to it, but I can straighten that out when I actually pin the specimen to dry, which will be the next step, and then reattaching the legs. I'm going to put one in the thorax here too, just to help hold the stuffing in until it's dried. Yeah, I should put one in here. There we go. I get the edges of the cut up so I can get to it. I'll put two in here just to hold it in place. I'll put one more in the middle. And now that the abdomen has been, and the body has been stuffed, I'm ready to reattach the leg. This middle leg, I see has a little fracture here. See how this is flexible? So I have another piece of my wonderful grass, which I should be able to insert. I need to trim the end of it. I'll work up here. I can insert this into the part of the leg there, and that will reinforce that section. See, it's much sturdier. Now I'm going to pull it out a little bit and cut it off, and the reason is I need a little space in this part of the leg to attach it to the body. I'm going to push that piece in. There. Yeah, much sturdier, see? I'm going to insert a piece of this grass and trim it, and then I'm going to insert this end into this socket here on the body, and that will help hold the leg in place. And I'm going to put a little glue on that too, so I've got my Elmer's blue gel, which is my favorite glue to use for this sort of thing, and I'm going to put a little glue on the twig of grass, and then push that into the leg so that when that dries, that'll hold it in place. And then down here on the leg socket, there's a little opening where the leg was attached, and I'm going to put some glue on this grass and insert it into this leg opening. There. Good. And that will help hold it in place when it dries, especially. The glue dries, that'll really keep that from breaking off. These legs are designed to break off, so when an animal grabs them, the leg just breaks off and gives the insect a chance to escape. The hind leg is not quite soft enough to prepare yet, so I'm going to go ahead and work on pinning up the rest of the specimen. Now, this has to go in a box that's only 15 inches, so I want to make sure that when I'm finished with pinning the specimen, that it will fit in my box. So this is 12 inches to here, so yeah, there's plenty of room to make this work. I am going to use a pin, even though this specimen will probably spin around on a pin if given the chance. And I'm going to put it through this thick part of the thorax right here. I may even go through the grass, which will be good. Yes, it'll make it grip a little harder. I'm going to raise it up just slightly so there's a little space. Makes it look a little more natural. And then I just use pins to position the legs and the body. I'm going to brace the body here so it doesn't spin around by putting pins underneath the junctions of the legs. And I can also use this to straighten the abdomen a little bit. It's got a little bit of a bend to it. So I can brace it on one side and push it to the side a little bit. Once it dries, it'll stay there. And on the end as well. I'm going to open up the end of the abdomen a little bit so you can see the reproductive organs. I'm also going to prop up the head a little bit here so that it looks alert. There we go. Now, to make the legs stay in position, you just use pins crossed like this to hold down the leg where you want it. And I just want it to look like it's sort of walking here. I'll put a pin like this and a pin across to hold that part down. And I like to go for a symmetrical look. So I like to get the leg placed in about the same place, and then a cross pin to hold that. And if you wanted the leg to move, you know, in this or that direction, which might be a good idea since it's kind of a tall insect and it might not fit in the box if I don't do this. I'm going to pull this leg down a little farther. Yeah, like this. And you can move it, you can brace it this way, or you can brace it this way if you need to. Yeah, I think that's probably better. And the back leg, same thing. This one's not ready yet. And then the front leg. You see that? Now, in a museum collection or a research collection, these legs would all be folded in, everything's folded in to save space. And that makes sense, because you don't need to have it all spread out in order to have the specimen for research purposes. But for display specimens, it's nice to give them a little bit of extra tension and make them look kind of realistic. Then the viewer just gets a sense of what the animal looked like when it's alive. Just to brace the antennas, you can set those with this same little pin prop, like that, to hold it up. It's nice to get them sort of symmetrical. You could also put some on the ends if you needed to. If it was drooping at this end, you could prop up the antennas over here if you needed to. I don't really need to, but the back leg is ready to attach now, and I've put a piece of this grass into the socket there to hold it in place, and I'm going to clip it off and maybe leave like an inch to put into the leg. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the end just to hold that all in place, and then insert the grass into the leg. There we go. This pin. There. And then position it. So that it matches the other one. Just come this way a little bit. And maybe down a little. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll brace it a little so that it's lined up with the other one, and then it's ready to dry. It's been a couple of days now, and the specimen is dry, so now I'm going to pull the pins out. Oh yeah, very nice. Yep, still got a lot of the green in the legs and in the body, and the white stripe is still there, and it's kept most of its shape. You can see the underside. You can still see some of this polyester fiber sticking out, and I can just get a scissors and trim that off, which I'll do now. Just got a fairly sharp pair of scissors here, and I can go along the length and just trim that off. Yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty good. A little bit of a gap here, but it doesn't matter, you can't see the bottom. So there it is. Now I'm going to put this in a Cornell drawer. I get these from BioQuip. See the whole thing here, see? BioQuip company. I buy them in kits of 6 and build them myself. It's a bit cheaper that way. And hopefully this will fit just perfect. Oh yeah, very nice. I'm going to center this. And then I have a bunch of other stick insects I'm going to put around it. That's good. Now, because it's positioned on a pin like this, it could spin around. So I'm going to push it down just a little bit so the legs touch. I've got this main pin through the piece of grass that I used to brace it, so it's good and stiff in there. And if I need to, I can just take a pin and make a brace. Usually I just put it in the crotch of the leg there, like that, and that'll keep it from spinning around when I move the box around. Yeah, let's have a look up close. Yeah, it's in really good shape. And now we put the label on the specimen, put it on the pin. So lift it up and just put the pin through the label. Very important to label specimens, especially wild-caught ones. The data is important for doing research in the future. If there's no data, it's just a dead bug in a pin. Now I'm going to I have a box of stick insects, and I'm going to transfer them into this box. I have another one of these, and I'm going to pull it out and show you the difference. The other one was not preserved by soaking in acetone. It was just dried, and you can see it. This one looks so much better. So this is the specimen that I had before, and you can see that it's just sort of grayish tan. There's no real color at all in it. It's still a nice looking specimen as far as the shape goes. Yeah, the newer specimen looks much better. Much more like a living stick insect. This one looks very sort of dried out and pale and discolored. This one looks much nicer. Now I'm going to transfer all the other stick bugs that I have from my other display box into this new display box. Since this specimen is so long, it takes up so much space, it's much easier to put this one in first and then apply and build the other specimens in around it. And finally, I have a little piece of no pest strip. This is called Vapona. Comes in a rectangle like a stick of gum, and I cut it up into triangles, wrap it in glassine paper, put a pin through, and then I write the date on it. This is August of 2015, so this is a fresh one. And then put this in a corner somewhere, like maybe down here in the corner. And that keeps insects out. There's little dermestid beetles or sosids that can get in and eat up the bugs, so you keep a little no pest strip in there. And then the lid on, and we're all set. Brand new box. Looks really great.